Okay, today guys, I'm going to talk about Red 40, which is one of the most widely used dyes in the US, even though it's been linked to show behavioral issues, allergic reactions, and even cancer. So we're going to talk about why it's even still in our food. So to help you become better informed on eating foods that have Red 40, we're going to talk about how it's made, the health studies and concerns around this dye, and also the controversy and current regulations around Red 40. So to begin, we're going to talk about what is Red 40. So like I mentioned, it's an FDA-approved artificial dye, meaning it's man-made. It's not something that comes naturally from our earth. It's actually made from petroleum, which is the same thing used to make gasoline or motor oil. And according to the Center for Science and the Public Interest, it's approved for beverages, bakery items, candies, food, drugs, and even cosmetics in order to give them a pink or red color. So the FDA has daily safe limits for all of their artificial dyes. For Red 40 specifically, for a 66-pound child, it would be 210 milligrams. To put that in perspective, that's about 1,000 Skittles. So obviously a kid's probably not going to eat 1,000 red Skittles in a day, but that's not taking into account the fact that all the dyes that they'd be eating with Skittles, plus the fact that most processed foods have these dyes in them. Now moving on to the health concerns and studies. So the first health concern that's been linked from the consumption of Red 40 is behavioral issues or ADHD. So the California legislator of the Environmental Health Hazard Assessment did a study for 2 years based on children where they studied their behavioral patterns given when they were eating a Red 40 diet, and evidence showed that synthetic food dyes are associated with adverse neurobehavioral outcomes in some children. Not all children were affected, but it definitely had some behavioral impacts for some children. Also a problem are allergic reactions. So the Center for Science and the Public Interest did a study where 52 people that already were having problems with allergic reactions. They had hives and swelling. They were put on an elimination diet where they got rid of Red 40 and other dyes, but also other triggers. Once the swelling and hives cleared up, they slowly started reintroducing just Red 40. And then 15% of them came back with severe allergic reactions. On top of allergic reactions, there's also DNA damage and carcinogenic effects. So the National Library of Medicine did a study to show that with mice, many of the mice that were put on a Red 40 diet for 10 months, a lot of them developed gut problems and mild inflammation in the colon. So Red 40 is also linked to early development of colon cancer. So this chart here, it's kind of hard to see for you guys maybe, but this is a study done from the Center for Science and the Public Interest, and it shows that Red 40, yes, is linked to allergic reactions, has carcinogenic contaminants, which is picresdine, which is a known human carcinogen. And then when the test that they did on mice, it did show that they started to grow tumors in their immune system. So the current regulations and public awareness, the FDA currently allows Red 40, as we know, in our food. It was approved in 1971 by the FDA, but with more people coming out and understanding the negative effects that we just talked about, states like California, Arizona, Utah, Virginia, and West Virginia have started disallowing these, not just Red 40, but other synthetic dyes as well from children's lunches. And West Virginia has even taken it as far to ban all 7 dyes, including Red 40, completely by 2028. Around the world, they have even more strict regulations. In Norway and Japan, Red 40 is banned altogether. In the European Union, however, they're not banned. Red 40 is not banned, but they have more strict regulations. So for every product that they have that contains Red 40, there has to be a strict warning label that says, may have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children. So as a result, it's hard to find products with Red 40 in the European Union because companies refuse to have this on their packaging since it's similar to what you would see on a pack of cigarettes, like the warning label. However, in the US, since we don't have these things, many citizens are unaware of what Red 40 is and the negative effects that come along with it. So how can we change this? So there are several things that need to be changed in order for the US to steer clear of these toxins. The first thing is there needs to be stronger regulations and clearer labeling. Just like the European Union where they have warning labels on these products, it would be very helpful for our consumers to have some kind of warning label so they understand what they're feeding themselves and their children. We also need to advocate for dye-free options. There's already more dye-free options coming up as people become more aware of the negative consequences of Red 40, but still we need to continue advocating for the big companies to continue giving us dye-free options, especially when there are so many safe alternatives. There are so many things that our earth naturally gives to us that have these colors, such as beet juice, paprika extract, turmeric, spirulina. So there's so many safe alternatives that are already being used, and they should continue to be used. One example of this is I'm going to hand you guys out this. I want you to pay attention to the bold colors in Doritos. Just pass one on, please. Of Doritos in the U.S. versus the U.K. So in the U.S. they have red 40, blue 1, and yellow 5. In the UK, they have annatto, which that is a seed that naturally comes from a tree, so it's a natural food dye. So, and the crazy thing about this is the same size bag is $1.55 in US dollars. This bag, same size bag in the US, is $2.38. So it's actually cheaper for the natural dye. So why does this matter? Disabilities are on the rise in the US, as I'm sure you know, but especially I can see this being in the schools I've been at around the area. More than half of the kids in the schools are diagnosed with ADHD and are taking medications for it. And the University of California, Berkeley had done a study that's shown that ADHD has grown 10% in the last 20 years. So this tells us that this isn't always directly related to Red 40, but it mainly has a lot to do with our food and what we're fueling our bodies with. And there's really just no reason to take the gamble on our health or children's health, who are the more vulnerable people in our society, because there are safe alternatives, just as I showed you in the Dorito example. And just as you know, like when you go to Trader Joe's, there's stores like that that value safe food, and they produce food products that don't have these dyes in it, and they're not any more expensive than stuff that you would find in your normal grocery store. So there are safe alternatives. And we're already seeing this take place in our US as our health secretary keeps coming out with safer things, like the Consumer Brands Association, which it represents companies such as PepsiCo and Kraft Heinz. They've already gotten these companies to come up with different ways to do their recipes to make safe alternatives. So we're starting to see more of that. So how can we change? Today I told you what Red 40 is, the studies behind it that show increases in hyperactivity, allergic reactions, as well as cancer. We went through the controversy and how other countries and even other states seem to be caring for their population more and taking care of what's being in their food. And so next time I want you to look at the foods before you eat it, if you think it has Red 40 in it, and understand that the same thing that's going into your body is the same thing that would be used to fuel your car. So this isn't just a color, it's a health risk, and our bodies deserve better. I'm going to leave you guys with this quote from our current U.S. Health Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He says, "In Europe, the same companies are producing the same products, but they are using natural coloring. But here they can get away with it. We have about almost 1,000 chemicals that are in our food that are either outright banned in Europe or actively discouraged." So continue to make better choices. And here's my thing. It's just my outline that I did, but I blew it up and had highlights.